Hello and welcome to another Every Tuesday tutorial. This week's tutorial comes courtesy of Allison, who requested a video on how to form typography into a shape. So with the holidays coming, I thought it would be fun to do a holiday bulb with the word joyful thrown into it. So joyful is hand lettered out to look like a circle and then placed inside of a holiday bulb. So we are going to create exactly what you see on screen, and we're going to be using a scan of a doodle that I created, which I'm giving away for free this week. So if you'd like to follow along with me, definitely click on the link on the video to download that JPEG and we can get started. So I'm just going to move these over to the side so we've got those as reference as we work, and we're going to start clean right here. This is just an 8.5 by 11 document, and it's in CMYK, as if you might print this for a holiday card if you wanted to. So I'm just going to go File, Place, and choose that scan, that JPEG. And here it is, and I'm just going to put it on its own layer. You can see I've got my final outcome on its own layer right now, so we want to create a new layer. And because this is currently on the final outcome layer, you can see this little blue square. I'm just going to move that up here, and now it's moved on to this layer number 2, which we're going to label scan. And I'm just going to lock it so we can't move it. Okay, so I want to go over how I drew this before we get into recreating it over here. So when you're lettering out within a shape, I always create an outline of the shape that I want it to conform to. So here I just hand drew a circle, very crafty looking. If you wanted to get more perfect, you could trace the bottom of a cup or anything that's a perfect circle, use a compass, whatever. But I just hand drew this, I freehanded it because I like the more hand-drawn crafty feel. And whenever you're laying out your lettering, I chose to do a script here. A normal crossbar of a J would come straight across, but because it's locked into the shape, you need to follow wherever your letters hit the edges, make sure they conform to the curvature of your shape. So right here I've got the crossbar of the J following the curvature of the circle right here, this bottom part of the J coming along this curvature. When the Y hits, it hits right on the line, the F. And you can see the tail of the L is hitting here, and even the loop is hitting along here. If you come out a little bit, don't worry about it. The important thing is having major parts that hit and follow along the edges. So wherever your edges hit, make sure they're following your shape. Okay, and I chose hand lettering over a regular font because when you start manipulating fonts, it can get really tricky and really ugly really quickly, and I find hand lettering to be far more expressive and more beautiful when it's locked into a shape. So that's why personally I would recommend always hand lettering something that you're putting into a shape. Okay, all that said, we're just going to redraw this, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do that. So I'm going to go over the pen tool a little bit. I haven't discussed the pen tool too much in other tutorials, so I want to give you kind of the basics of the pen tool, which will make drawing out letter forms really easy. And you can definitely, if you have a Wacom, feel free to draw it. You can use the pencil tool using your mouse if you're not comfortable with the pen tool, but the pen tool gets used a lot in Illustrator, so the sooner you get comfortable with it, the better everything will be for you as you move forward with graphic design. So I'm just going to create a new layer over here in my layers palette. I'm going to label it artwork, and this is where we're going to put everything that we do. Okay, so I just want to talk about where to place points when you're using the pen tool. So I'm just going to draw out an O. Okay, so when you're trying to decide when you're using the pen tool, the important thing to know is if we were to draw a box around this O right here, wherever the edges hit, so right here, and right here, that's where you should have a point when you're drawing the O. If I have an A, if I go and I draw a box around it, it's basically your extremities. So I would have a point up, wherever you start, you have to have a point. Up here I would have a point, down here I would have a point, I would have a point right here, and then as we draw the tail, you'd have a point right here. This box didn't draw all the way down. You'd have a point down here, and obviously up here that connects to the main part of the A. So wherever you have an extremity is where you want to keep your point. So I'm just going to start drawing this, and I'll explain it as I go along. So I'm going to hit P on my keyboard, and that activates my pen tool. I'm going to click on my starting point, and I'm just going to click up here, and I'm going to drag it out, and this is my handle, and this defines the curve at which my line is drawn. So I can just release it now. I'm going to change this color so we can see it really well. I'll make it like baby blue. All right, now I'm going to hit V and then click anywhere, because if I continue drawing over here, it's going to connect this point to this point. So in order to kind of let it go, just hit V and then click anywhere. Okay, so next I'm going to hit P again. I'm going to click up here, but I'm going to make sure I don't add a point. Sometimes your pen tool will want to add a point, but that will make sure it doesn't. Okay, so now we have to figure out where extremity is. So if we were to draw a box around this J, you can see that the first point would be right around here. So I'm just going to click here and drag it out. And now my handle down where my mouse is right now is pretty long. And whenever you have a long handle, it means you've got a very extreme curve. So I need to reduce the length of this handle, and I can do that by holding Alt and then just dragging it in. And then I can release. This would be my next extremity down here. So I'm just going to click, drag it out, hold Alt, drag my handle back a little bit. And then this is my next extremity, click, drag it out, hold Alt, bring it back a little bit. This is my next point, bring it back, and we can probably finish this off. Nope, see how this is not following my curve very well? It means I need another one over here. So I'm just going to drag this out and finish it off right here. Okay, so that's our J. And now I'll go into the O. I'm going to hit P, and I need one over here. Alt, bring it back in a little. Drag this out, Alt, bring it back in. Over here, down here, and then up here. Okay, so whenever I'm drawing scripts, I could continue with the Y right here, but if I mess up anywhere and I have to start manipulating points, I'm going to end up affecting this O, and I like the O the way it is, so I do not want to connect it. Anywhere I have an opportunity to just draw the letters separately, I take it, because if I need to change anything with a letter, then it can be specific to that letter and I won't accidentally mess up any letters that are touching it. So I'm going to hit V on my keyboard, click anywhere, and then I can get into my Y, but since I have a point right here where I also need the point of the Y to begin, I don't want to connect it accidentally, and that's what would happen. So I need to select my O and I need to lock it. And the keyboard shortcut to locking an element is Command in the number 2 or Control in the number 2 on a PC. And once I do that, you can see I can't select it anymore, so I'm not going to accidentally connect to this line. So I'm going to hit P again on my keyboard, and I'm just going to draw out my Y. And now I'm going to speed up the video and finish off the rest of the word. Okay, so now we have our word all lettered out using the pen tool, and now all I'm going to do is turn off our doodle, our scan. And now we can see we've got our lettering. So that's looking pretty good, and now we just want to thicken it up so we can read it from far away a lot better. So I'm just going to select everything I have right here, and you can see because I've locked my O and my F, those are not selected, so we need to bring those back so we can select them. So I'm just going to hit Command Alt 2 or Control Alt 2 on a PC, and that'll unlock them. And now is also a perfect time to go in, and you can see any places that might look a little funky to you, you can go in and clean them up. Like this is kind of a hard point down here, so I'm going to hit A on my keyboard and just click on that point, and you can adjust your handles to make the curve a little smoother. And over here, this looks a little jaggy, like I can tell right where the point is, and you don't want people to be able to tell where your point is. So I'm just going to bring this back a little bit. And every now and then when you're drawing, sometimes you will get handles. Let me change the color of this so you can see. Let me make it, let's make it pink. Okay, so you can see if I move this handle, it moves separate from this handle. And in this case, I want them to move together. So if you have an instance where this is happening and you want to keep them together, hold Shift and then C on your keyboard, and you get this little kind of carrot-shaped looking cursor. And you're just going to click on the point and drag it out. And then once you release, then hit A on your keyboard, re-click on your anchor point, and now when you move your handles, they move together. And that just creates a smoother transition right here from this curved path to this curved path. Okay, so for the sake of time, I'm going to move on with this. Normally I would sit around and tinker for forever, but now I'm going to rubber band select everything. And then we're going to come over to our stroke palette, and if you don't see this, you can get to it by going Window, Stroke. And we're just going to up the stroke to, let's see, maybe 4. And I always like having a rounded cap and a rounded corner, so you can see how these are like very abrupt endings on our ends. And if you click on this center icon for round cap and round corner, you can see those soften everything up, and it feels really good. I really don't like this point, so I'm going to fix this really quick. That looks better. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is create a copy of this, just in case you ever want to go back. You want to make sure that you've got a copy of all of your pen work, because it would suck to have to go back and redraw the whole thing if you want to change something later. So I'm just going to hold Alt on my keyboard, click and drag, and just kind of leave that over there for if you need it later. Okay, so now we're going to expand all of our strokes, so make sure you have it the thickness that you want it, everything's positioned the way you want it, and then go up here and go Object, Expand, and you'll get this little dialog box that says Expand, Fill, or Stroke, and you want to make sure both of those are checked and hit OK. And next you can see wherever you've got overlapping paths, you don't want that to happen. So if you come to your Pathfinder palette over here, you can get to that by going Window, Pathfinder, and you're just going to click this first icon for Unite. And when you do that, it makes everything really smooth, which is very important. So next we're going to put a bulb around it. So we're going to grab our circle tool over here, which is our ellipse tool, or the keyboard shortcut is the letter L on your keyboard. And you're just going to find kind of around the center of your lettering, and you're going to hold Shift and you're going to hold Alt, and then you're going to click and drag, and that'll drag right out of the center. And I'm off a little bit, but that's okay. And you want to send this to the back, so I'm going to right click, arrange, send to back, and that's the keyboard shortcut. It's Shift Command open bracket or Shift Control open bracket on a PC. And because my lettering's blue, you can't see that it's behind it, but I'm going to eyedropper this red color right here, which is 15, 100, 90, 21. Okay, so now I'm just going to bring this down a little bit and center it the way I like it. All right, so I'm going to show you how to create these this bulb 3 ways. So the first way is kind of having this shadow, this subtle shadow around the edge, so it kind of looks 3D. And then we'll put some texture inside of it, this gold foil texture, and then we'll put a little string on it with a bow too. So we're gonna draw our string first. So I'm just gonna move this down here, and I'm gonna hit the backslash key on my keyboard. I'm gonna click and drag, and as I'm dragging, I'm gonna hold Shift, and that'll keep it straight. And I'm going to make this red color 24, 100, 100, 49. And in order to make the bow, I actually just freehanded this with the pencil tool and my mouse because it's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to hit N on my keyboard, and this is my pencil tool, and I'm just going to draw out a bow. And I do this part first, and then I'm going to hit V on my keyboard, and then I'm going to hit N again, and I'm just going to draw this other end over here. And you can clean that up if you want, but I'm going to move forward so we can finish this off really quickly. Okay, so now with all of this together, I'm going to make 2 more copies so we can go over them all, and I'm going to shrink these down so they're all together. Okay. Oh, the stroke width on the string that I'm using is 3 points. Okay. Now that we have all of this, the first thing we need to do is set the texture inside of the text here. So because these are all separate elements, we need Illustrator to consider them one element. Even though they're grouped, Illustrator does not recognize that they're one element. So in order to do that, you're going to hit Command 8 or Control 8 on, that's the number 8, on your keyboard, and that's going to create a compound path. You can also come over here and go Edit, object, compound path, make. And when you do that, nothing's going to change. It's all behind the scenes stuff, but trust me, it's very important that you do not skip this step. Next, I'm going to bring in a texture from my Glitz and Glam digital foil and glitter kit. I'll leave a link to that kit if you'd like to pick it up. I also gave one of those textures away for free the other week, and I'll link to that as well if you want to use the free texture here. So I'm going to go File, Place, and I'm going to choose from that kit this gold hot foil. And I'm going to hit Place. And I'm going to scale the stem by holding Shift. And I just want to cover the typography, and then I'm going to send it to the back. So I'm going to use that keyboard shortcut, Command Shift open bracket or Control Shift open bracket on a PC. With your texture still selected, you're going to hold Shift, select your text, right click, make clipping mask. And that'll put that texture right inside of your text. Next, we're going to add that kind of 3D effect, the shadow, the very subtle shadow to the bulb. So I'm just going to click on the circle here, and you're going to come to your Appearance palette, which if you don't see this, you can get to it by going Window, Appearance. And down here where this little FX toggle is, you're just going to click, choose Stylize Inner Glow. And since this is a glow by default, yours probably says Screen on it, and there's a light color here. You're going to choose Multiply, and you're going to click on the little color, and you're going to choose a darker color than your bulb. So if your bulb is red like mine, I'm going to choose a deep burgundy here. So I'm going to hit OK, and then click on Preview, and you'll be able to see what that does. So I'm liking these settings. I've got a blur of 0.75 inches, and make sure it's coming from the edge of your circle, and my opacity is set at 25%. So I'm going to hit OK. So that's bulb number 1, totally done. So this one is just kind of the reverse. So we're going to put the texture on inside the bulb instead. So I'm going to go File, Place, and choose the hot foil again. I could also do silver. Let's see what that looks like. Silver hot foil, place, reduce this down, send it to the back, select the bulb, holding Shift, right click, make clipping mask, and let's make this lettering. Let's see what it looks like, red. Okay, so the last one is very simple. We're just going to select the lettering and eyedropper the white, and that's it. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe. I release a new design tutorial every single Tuesday, and don't forget to head on over to my blog, every-tuesday.com, for even more design tutorials and a bunch of design freebies, including that scan that I'm giving away this week if you'd like to create your own bulb. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week.